They said it started with a whisper, a single sentence spoken in a dimly lit studio under the unblinking eyes of cameras and critics. Andrew Tate sat across from Judge Judy, the sharp flame of defiance in his eyes, the kind that made even seasoned icons hesitate. But that day there was something different, something darker, something deeper. As the air thickened, he leaned forward and spoke softly, almost as if sharing a forbidden secret with the world. Islam will be the final religion, he said, his voice unshaken, as though he were declaring a prophecy rather than an opinion. Judge Judy didn't interrupt. She didn't blink. She just stared, frozen in time, her courtroom aura shattered by something far bigger than legal theatrics. The audience went silent, some in disbelief, others in a silent wave of curiosity. It wasn't the kind of statement made lightly, nor was it the kind easily forgotten. That moment spread through the internet like wildfire. The clip shared, remixed, debated, twisted, worshipped, and condemned all at once. Some called it bold, others dangerous. Posters with Tate's face appeared in underground forums, in tea shops in Cairo, Istanbul, Kuret, whispered in university debates, shared between hands that trembled in fear or flickered in excitement. And yet what most didn't see was what happened after the cameras cut. Judge Judy, a woman built from stone and law, sat back slowly. Eyes narrowed, not in anger, not even in judgment, but recognition. She had heard similar words once before, years ago, in a prison-holding cell in New York, spoken by a quiet, sharp-minded convert who was later found dead under mysterious circumstances. A man who had once told her something eerily similar. A prophecy that echoed now through the voice of a polarizing millionaire influencer. It was as though history was catching up with itself. In the corners of old mosques, clerics began to speak in hushed tones about the men of the West returning to the fold. Scholars of religion dug up ancient texts referring to a time when powerful voices outside the faith would see its rise long before the faithful expected it. Was Andrew Tate just a provocateur, or was he an unwitting messenger, a lightning rod for something waiting just beneath the surface of modern chaos? Nobody was laughing anymore. And Judge Judy. She walked out of that studio with more questions than answers. Her eyes, once so quick to detect liars, were filled with a strange mix of doubt and something else. Was it fear? Or was it the dawning grip of truth, the kind too heavy for the courtroom, too vast for a single sentence, too haunting to ignore? The world had changed in that one moment, quietly, brutally, inevitably. She didn't sleep that night. Judge Judy, the woman who'd spent 4 decades staring down lies, manipulation, and courtroom theatrics, lay restless in the dark. The echo of Tate's words refused to fade. They pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat she couldn't silence. Islam will be the final religion. It was more than a prediction. It was a message. Her thoughts drifted back to that prisoner years ago, Malik the bookkeeper Daniels, a man she'd sentenced for financial crimes, a quiet Muslim convert who'd unnerved her not with threats but with silence. He knew something he never said, but hinted just once near the end of the trial. It isn't power that scares them, he'd said. It's prophecy. She remembered how he looked at her, not with anger but with pity. When news of his mysterious death reached her, the case was quietly closed. A heart attack, they said. But the report never explained why the security cameras malfunctioned that night, why the guards were on break, or why the last words scrawled on his cell wall, written in charcoal, were a single line of Arabic. A verse she didn't understand then, but after talking to a linguist, she'd learned it was from the Quran. And truth has come and falsehood has vanished, indeed. Falsehood is bound to vanish. She thought about that now, about Tate's defiant voice, about the ripple effects, the aftershocks of his sentence, felt in hushed meetings and frantic messages in the highest circle. She wasn't the only one thinking. Far across the world, in a candlelit room in Ankara, a Turkish academic studied trending videos of Tate replaying his statement over and over. The man stroked his graying beard, eyes laser-focused, not on Tate but on the audience faces reacting behind him, on the collective moment of stillness. That silence meant more than applause or outrage. That silence meant recognition. For centuries, whispers of a Western reawakening to Islam were dismissed. But now those whispers took form in podcasts, in debates, in viral clips, and in the unlikeliest of figures, a controversial former kickboxer, millionaire, and digital outlaw. In Morocco, an imam stepped down from his wooden pulpit after Friday prayer. He wasn't young, nor was he someone who browsed TikTok or YouTube. But a group of teenagers had played Tate's clip for him earlier that week. He had barely reacted then, but now he felt a shiver of old prophecy resurface. There's a saying buried in the works of Ibn Arabi, difficult, poetic, often dismissed as metaphor. The stranger will see clearly what the familiar one ignores. Were the stranger starting to speak? Meanwhile, in the sprawling office of a U.S. intelligence center, eyes scanned monitors showing online reaction patterns. Red circles glowed over hotspots in Jakarta, Lagos, London, Karachi, Detroit, Oslo. A young analyst frowned at her screen as she tracked activity. Spy, you seeing this? She asked a colleague. Yeah, he replied, leaning closer. Same keywords. Islam, Tate, final religion. Are we flagging it? And what already have, think they'll call it extremism. Maybe, maybe not. But they'll want to stop it deep in another part of the world. Tate himself watched the chaos from a sparsely lit room in Dubai. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't speaking. He just stared as his name exploded beside a word nobody expected from him. He'd said it deliberately. He'd meant it. But even he didn't know where it would lead. Behind him on a desk lay a Quran, worn at the edges, a bookmark tucked somewhere near the middle. He glanced at it once in a while, as if reminding himself of something greater than viral fame or controversy. Are you sure about this? A familiar voice asked from the doorway. His brother, Tristan, leaned against the frame, arms crossed. A faint frown in the shadows. I'm not playing a game anymore, Andrew answered. The world is. You know they're watching you. I know, they're afraid. Neither spoke for a while. Then Andrew turned back to the window. Dubai shimmered before him like a mirage. Both modern and ancient, wealthy and spiritual, built on sands that had seen civilizations rise, fall, and rise again. They'll come for me, he finally said. They always do. But this time, Tristan murmured, it won't just be about you. 2 days later, Judge Judy sat in her study, staring at her laptop. She had opened a message marked PRVE. It was sent by someone she hadn't heard from in years, a retired CI linguist who'd helped her translate Malik Daniel's writing a decade ago. A man who disappeared into quiet rural life after retiring from work he didn't want to think about anymore. His message was short. Judy, something's waking up. It's not about terror. It's about belief. And you need to understand the difference. Call me. But she hesitated, then picked up her phone. Before she dialed, she glanced again at the scribbled note she'd kept from Malik's cell. The Quran verse, translated by hand in blue ink. Truth has come. She finally understood why Malik stared at her that day. He knew something, not about crime, but about time. In a hostel in Berlin, an atheist documentary filmmaker obsessed with Middle Eastern history was editing a new project, a series on religion's future in the West. He'd never believed in faith, but he believed in patterns. And he saw one now in converts and migration, in rhetoric and culture, in Tate's viral voice cutting through screens and borders. He scribbled a line in his notebook. We thought secularism won. But maybe it just paused the story. And still, nobody noticed the quietest ripple. Late at night, a 16-year-old boy in Chicago watched Tate's clip on his cracked phone screen. His mother was asleep. He'd stopped going to church months ago. He'd been lost between depression, peer pressure, and the seductive weight of numbness. But something in Tate's eyes didn't look like online flexing. It looked like certainty. He searched for more, found a podcast with an IBM explaining the concept of fitra, the natural state of belief, like an instinct. For the first time in years, the boy cried not from sadness, from relief. Something had shifted not in the institutions, but in the cracks, in the quiet, in the in-between. And the people who ran the world didn't know how to stop something that didn't come with banners or armies or elections. It came with whispers, a whisper that had turned into a sentence that felt like destiny. And Judge Judy now knew she wasn't just a witness, she was a player, and she had a choice to make, not in court, but in truth. Would you like me to continue into part 3?